Breaking news on Seattle Seahawks today as Ugo Amadi has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. And here is the news from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero as the trade has gone down, bringing wide receiver JJ Arcega-Whiteside to the Seahawks for Ugo Amadi is the trade. And in this case, in bringing Amadi to Philadelphia and sending Whiteside to Seattle, this is what's interesting is that Whiteside just this year switched over from playing the wide receiver position to the tight end. Now, we've talked a lot on Seahawks Today over the last several weeks that this Seahawks tight end room has some depth. And now you add another piece, and I'll tell you here just in a little while from right now about the situation with the Seahawks and Ugo anyway, as it looked like they were going to move on. A report on that we'll get to in just a moment. But before we get to all of that, who won the trade? For me, I think it's the Seahawks because you got rid of a player you were already planning to move on from and got another piece out of it. Although Whiteside has had his struggles early on in his career, at least you got something for somebody that you were going to move on from anyway. So let me know who won the trade in the comment section. If it is the Seahawks, type S for Seahawks. If it is the Eagles, type E for Eagles. Let me know in the comment section below who won this trade, whether it was Seattle or Philadelphia. Now, here's why I say Seattle won this trade for me. Because the Seahawks were already on track to move on from Ugo Amadi. Here was the report that we got from Brady Henderson, ESPN Seattle Seahawks reporter, earlier this morning. He said the Seahawks plan to cut Ugo Amadi as a part of their first wave of roster reductions. The source tells me Amadi has been a rotational player at nickel and has been competing with Marquise Blair and Justin Coleman for that job. Teams have to trim their rosters to 85 by tomorrow. So you can see the plans were already in place to move on from Ugo, and now essentially they've gotten value for him. So with that being said, when we look at these roster trim situations, you always wonder, okay, if I'm going to move on from a guy, is there a market for him somewhere? And apparently there was in Philadelphia in this case. You look at the numbers with Ugo Amadi. Last year, nothing really jumped off the page. 54 tackles, 6 pass breakups, just 1 interception and 1 forced fumble. And with what the Seahawks are doing, getting younger at the cornerback position, with bringing in the likes of Kobe Bryant as well as Tariq Woolen, the 2 rookie corners, there wasn't a need for Ugo Amadi anymore. We'll talk about Whiteside in just a second, but for me, this trade's a win because you found something for a guy you were going to move on from more than likely anyway. This is why you subscribe to Seahawks Today, folks, because we're covering breaking news as well as the latest happenings with your Seattle Seahawks right here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now to the channel, youtube.com/SeahawksTV, so you never miss a moment with all the latest news and rumors that's going on with your favorite team. It's Seahawks Today by Chat Sports, bringing you daily Seattle Seahawks content, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Turn on the notifications so you never miss a moment. All right, let's get you the numbers here on Whiteside, what he brings to the table for the Seahawks. It has not been good for him these past 3 seasons. Just 16 catches, 290 yards, and 1 touchdown in his first 3 years in the National Football League. And as we mentioned, he was drafted originally as a wide receiver, and it has been talked about a lot that 2019 was a heck of a year for wide receivers. You go back to what the Seahawks did, getting DK Metcalf with the very last pick in the 2nd round, but you also had Diontae Johnson, Terry McLaurin, Hunter Renfrow. All of those guys were selected after Whiteside. And so, in this case, what the Seahawks are getting is a former 2nd-round pick, another one from 2019, but that doesn't tell the full story here. Look, Whiteside might not even make this Seahawks roster. He very well might not even do so. But if you had already mentally moved on from Ugo Amadi, why not go ahead and see what you potentially have with Whiteside here to see if he's a guy that could potentially make that 53-man roster. In I know Philadelphia Eagle fans had grown frustrated with him over the years of just the lack of production for as high of a pick that they used on him in the second round. But in this case, if you already said you weren't going to work out Ugo, then you go with JJ in this case and you see if it works or not. To me, it's one of those things where it's not a high risk and maybe it's a higher reward situation here for Seattle. Last year, just 2 catches, 36 yards. We'll see what he brings to the table. But a very interesting trade to see how this goes down. He might not even make the 53-man when it's all said and done, but at least you got something. At least you have the effort there to try to see if you have another piece to add to your tight end room. That's already pretty good with Noah Fant and Will Dissly and company. So, will we see Arcega-Whiteside make the 53-man roster for the Seahawks? Very competitive so far for this final roster. Who will make it? Will we see JJ on that final 53-man roster? Let me know in the comment section. Type Y for yes, type in for no if you think that he'll make the roster when it's all said and done. Y for yes, in for no. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, Tyler, why would the Seahawks make a trade for somebody that they could potentially still cut? Well, in this case, if you have 2 guys that were not wanted in each other, now you are giving each other's franchises a chance to see if there's a fit for the other one, essentially, in this case. Kind of how trade works, right? And so what I look at here with JJ Arcega-Whiteside is that here is somebody that we know the talent is there, that he's shown he passed those tests in college. There's a reason why he was picked to be a second-round pick. And now you come to Seattle and you say to yourself, okay, can he finally unleash? Can he finally take that next step? Can you see what you have there? To me, that's what I'm looking for at this point is that next step going to be taken? Is he going to show what we all know he's been capable of, but finally break out? That remains to be seen at this point. So now I look at this Seahawks team, and I'll say this much. Credit to Pete Carroll and John Schneider for trying something out here, okay? For not just being content with waiving a player and trying to move on from that front, to be aggressive here. And I think when you've looked back at this offseason for the Seahawks, one of the things that they've been criticized for is that in this rebuild mode that they've moved on from players and not been maybe necessarily trying to get better for this season. This is a move. You're taking a chance on somebody that you're trying to improve for the short term, I think, with this type of move right here, with where JJ's at in his contract situation at the end of this first-year rookie deal. So that's where I like that. So a couple takeaways there. Nonetheless, a big move for the Seahawks to begin the week here on a Monday on Seahawks Today. To recap one more time, we will bring this trade, show you on our screen right now. The Seahawks received defensive back Ugo Amadi. He's gone. And now the Seahawks bring in a former wide receiver, now tight end, and JJ Arcega-Whiteside to the Seahawks roster. Be sure to subscribe to Seahawks Today as we cover this team each and every day on the channel with the latest Seattle Seahawks breaking news and rumors, as well as watch parties and live shows throughout the week as well. Never miss a moment. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV.